A while back, we got a complaint from an Iowa business concerning the Iowa Corporate Compliance Statement, which you can see on your on the blow up here that Jeff Greenwood did. And they had pretty much figured it out, but wanted to get our opinion and also let us know that this was circulating around Iowa. And as you can tell, it's an attempt to look like a government agency and a government report. But of course, it really isn't what it looks to be. And it talks about some requirements for corporations, including the minutes of their meetings, the list of shareholders, their accounting records, and generally the business records of the corporation. And there are legal requirements that corporations collect them and maintain records in a certain way. But nothing about in the law about this kind of report. Nothing in the law about this kind of report to the Secretary of State's office. But it has that aura, and it has that look, it has IA, it has a seal up there. And the idea is for people to think they're required to make this report to the state. And for the purpose of the defendant, more importantly, think that they have to pay a fee of $125. Pretty healthy fee. Actually, relative to other fees, I think, Matt. So it's a look-alike deception. We first encountered the look-alikes in the charity area, where companies would and businesses would organize, and they'd sound like American Heart Association. They'd sound like American Lung Association, but they'd be different and would capture most of the money themselves. This is a little bit like that version. So when we got this complaint, we checked with U.S. Postal Service. And incidentally, the U.S. Postal Service is just a great partner in consumer protection in these kinds of areas. They have some resources, they have some power under the federal law, and they have a great willingness to work with our office, which we really appreciate. They did a little checking, and they were familiar. They had some problems with this company, and really it's an individual. It's not a corporation. Iowa Corporate Compliance is not a corporation. It's a business name that's used by Aaron Vincent Williams, who lives in Playa Vista, California. Hadn't heard of Playa Vista before, but sounds like a pretty nice city in California at any rate. So they did some more checking, Postal did, and found out that there was this postal drop up in the Beaverdale area, I think using a UPS office, and directed us towards that. So we did a subpoena to get the results of this effort to that mail drop in northwest Des Moines, and found, counting 48 recent ones, 270 responses to this certification and request for $125, totaling about $33,000. And I think at the same time, Secretary of State Matt Schultz was getting contacts from the business community about this form, and about its legitimacy, and about concerns. He contacted our office, so we thought we'd just partner up in working on this together. Today we filed a lawsuit and got an injunction signed by Judge D.J. Stovall in the Polk County District Court. Filed a consumer fraud lawsuit indicating deception, that we allege that the trickery of the form and the government look-alike and the payment of the fee, thinking it was to government, was a form of deception, and got an order, an injunction signed by Judge Stovall going forward. We also want the public to know that this is not part of state government, not part of the Secretary of State's office or any other state office, and there is absolutely no requirement that people pay $125. So with that, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Secretary of State Matt Schultz. As I say, we sort of concurrently were getting questions and complaints, so we decided we'd partner up on this.
Thanks, Tom. Well, in June we started receiving the complaints, just like Attorney General Tom Miller said, and we were preparing to make a media advisory to let businesses know. and we thought better to talk to the Attorney General's office, and Tom and his staff has done an excellent job in helping protect Iowa business. This is a case where to file business documents, it's a $50 fee. And these individuals were charging $125 for a service that doesn't, or a document is not required to be filed with our office. And as you can see, it is very misleading. And so we were getting calls from businesses and attorneys across the state wondering if they had to do this, wondering if it was legitimate. And so we thought it was important to make sure that we protected Iowa businesses, and the Attorney General's office has done a great job to make sure that that Iowa businesses have been protected. And we just want to make sure that all Iowa businesses know that they are not required to fill this out and send this into our office. And we don't want them to be misled any further. And so I'm very proud of what the Attorney General's office has done and what our office has done. And hopefully we'll be able to keep this from happening in the future. Thank you.
We'll be glad to take any questions.
Do you have any idea where they got the mailing list for these? Is it, if you look at the 270 addresses, is it from like the Small Business Association, or can you tell from the people who are responding?
I don't think we can tell for sure that there are so many different mailing lists available today. And, we know that from politics a little bit, Kay. I think it's fairly hard to tell. Steve St. Clair really has worked on this case, and like he's done on other cases, done a terrific job. Steve, do you have any sense of where who's getting this, where the list may have come from, who it might compile?
No, as matters now stand, we don't know what the source of the list was that this California gentleman used to mail to Iowans. It's obviously it's strictly corporate entities, but whether it was a private list or whether they obtained it from some other database, we've not yet determined.
They didn't get your list over at the Secretary of State's office.
And we've been looking into that internally to see, and we have not been able to determine whether they have or have not.
Whether they have or have not what?
Correct. Obtain the list by going to our website and looking them up. Obviously, you can search corporations on our website, and if somebody wanted to do the work and just start searching businesses, that's all public information. But we've been unable to determine whether or not that occurred in this case.
Okay. Is there a particular part of the state that this was occurring in, or was it across the state?
I think the complaints we've had, that they've come in across the state of Iowa. So I would believe that it was a statewide targeting mailing.
And that's our experience too. Steve's nodding his head.
Is there any other legal action pending against this person in other states for similar schemes?
I think there were some actions taken by the Postal Authority in 2008 and 2010, whatever they decide to do in the future is up to them.
But what you filed is a civil injunction, it's not criminal?
That's right. Ours is a civil case, our standard consumer fraud case against them.
Have you contacted the California Attorney General to see if they could prosecute it on criminal grounds?
We have. I don't think we've contacted them, but we could very easily have a discussion with them about that.
With the postal authorities involved, though, might it be a federal?
Well, it could be federal or it could be state. But if the federal authorities are involved across state lines, there are some advantages for them pursuing cases.
Do you have a timetable for returning these checks?
We don't. We want to do it fairly quickly. Of course, people are not out the money. The checks have not been cashed, fortunately, very fortunately. Like many times we have to get checks cut and give to consumers on a return. Here, the people that have not had the checks cashed, have not had the money taken from their accounts.
If the complaints started coming in June, and there's 270 here that you collected yesterday, any idea of the scope of how many people might have that you didn't intercept?
Well, we think we've gotten most of them. These accumulated over a period of weeks. There was a deadline at the end of June. In the last few days, I think it was 48 came in of the 270. So it seems to be declining. We think that we've gotten most or all of them that Iowans sent in.
Secretary Schultz, is this, you mentioned the $50 fee that's legitimate. Is that an annual fee?
No, that's just to file your articles of incorporation to start a
Uh-huh.
business. And so my point is, just to start a business in Iowa is $50. They're charging a $125 fee, and that would be on it seems an annual basis according to the document they're trying to use to mislead Iowa businesses. You do have biennial reports that are filed every 2 years that are $30, and so this is an exorbitant fee compared to the other fees that are charged for business filings in the state of Iowa.
Secretary Schultz, I guess that could just describe this as someone pretending to be the state of Iowa and sort of pretending to be you. I mean, do you sort of feel like, almost like this is giving you a creepy feeling, almost like identity fraud?
Well, I've been down that road before, but this is that's why we're trying to let the public know and make sure that they're not feeling that they have to provide this filing. And there's always an element to our society who tries to game the system, and I'm just glad that the Attorney General and our office were able to work together to stop it.
So to make it clear for businesses, any form that they might fill out, they need to get online?
All the forms that are necessary for your business filings that need to be filed with the state, you can obtain with the Secretary of State's office. Obviously, there are provisions in our law where businesses have different things that they can do, and they keep those documents internally. And so, but this is not. We do not require you to mail us and file the minutes of your annual meetings and so forth. So. Any legitimate filing by the state of Iowa that needs to be done on an annual or biannual basis can be found on our website.
So there's no notice that you send out to businesses that they might confuse and say, oh, this is what they said, to ignore and throw away?
Well, we do send notices out at the beginning of the year if you have a biennial report that's due. To save costs, we've made those notices into a postcard. And so we've been trying to make our way of doing business more efficient and cheaper. And so you may receive a note card or a postcard at the beginning of the year giving you notice that you might have to file a biennial report. But this kind of thing is not what you would receive. The only time you would receive a further letter is if your business would be administratively dissolved. And that's a much different filing than what we have here today.
Should the tip-off have been that they're sending it to a post office box? Aren't these mailed to a post office box?
Well, if you don't mind, Tom,
Yeah, go ahead.
it is possible that you could have a registered agent that has their address at a P.O. box to where they could get a notice from our office at a P.O. box. So that isn't necessarily determinative, but certainly would raise some red flags for some people.
Yeah, and the whole idea of this is to sort of get people's impression that this is official, this is something I have to do, so you go ahead and do it, and you don't pay attention totally to that this doesn't say Secretary of State. They have a disclaimer down here. The idea is to sort of, people are on the run, people are doing a lot of things. It's to catch people's sort of brief attention. They do a task, they get it done, they don't pay attention to a lot of details like the fine print or the post office box.
And the one thing I would add to that, when you look at the document, it says Iowa Corporate Compliance Business Services Division. And our office does have the Business Services Division, which does run all of these, all filings for businesses in the state of Iowa. And that in and of itself can be misleading for Iowa businesses.
Yeah, and